Are you tired of struggling with hair growth and thinning strands? Release the magic in your locks and tresses with I Am Melanin Magic Hair Oils. A premium blend of all natural ingredients strengthens, restores, and revitalizes your hair for maximum health and growth. Don't let thinning hair
straightened hair
brand. Upgrade your hair care game today.
So are you.
I Am Melanin Magic Hair Oils.
So, okay, no matter how long you have your locks, at some point you are going to find that you may hit a few challenges or have a few snags, even if it's the fact that you lose your loctician or you can't get there anymore, or maybe you lose your job and you can't pay for your retightenings, or maybe you find yourself having to bounce from one loctician to the other as you try to navigate your journey. It doesn't matter. As much of a blessing as the small locks are, and they are, I cannot emphasize enough that it was the best decision that I ever made. And it is a decision that I will never, ever regret. It was the best decision ever.
Our magical hair growth serum did this after just 8 short weeks, 5 times per week. Denisha began with the premium oil blend in April, and by June she had already regrown hair. Angelica addressed thinning with the magical hair growth serum and continues to use the products to improve thinning in areas where it's been hard to regrow hair. Meet Kina. Her hair loss was spread over several areas. She went ham with the magical hair growth serum, and to the shock of her loctician, her hair began to rebound fast. She is delighted, and so am I.
I am Melanin Magic, and so are you.
Hello. Welcome to Tanesia's Locks Beauty Tips and Potpourri. Welcome. I hope that you are feeling beautiful. I hope that you're feeling peaceful and productive. I'm Tanesia Ali, your host. I want to thank all of you all for continuing to come back to the channel, for continuing to support the channel, for supporting the work that I do, for supporting I Am Melanin Magic. I love you. I hope that y'all are feeling wonderful today. Today's topic is a topic that at some point in your Sisterlock, Microlock, whatever type of lock journey that you have, that by the way has been the greatest blessing. I'm going into somewhere like 15 years, I believe. Maybe 15 years will be, I think, in June or July. I think that will actually formally be the length of time that I've had my locks. But it's been the best decision that I ever made. And hopefully it'll be the best decision that you have ever made, regardless of where you find yourself at on your journey. At some point in your journey, even prior to reaching challenges that might be inevitable, you will experience abundance. You will experience hair freedom. You will experience always having a good hair day, as I say. The golden hour is here and the sun is shining. Let me close the blind. And having had these locks for almost 15 years, I've experienced so many things. You all know I shifted from Sisterlocks to knotted locks. I'm going on 2 years in a few more months where I will have another major update. Those of you who are enrolled in the Righteous Hair course will be getting 3 new videos over the next week that speak to some of the changes and some of the things that I am dealing with currently, and also some of the feedback that you all are constantly giving me. For those of you who are booking hair appraisals, or for those of you who reach out to me who are already in the course, keeping me up to date with your progress and how you're doing. But in the interim, there are just some very basic things that it can be super helpful for you to pay attention to while on this journey, because they can point to potential problems, things that if you do not arrest the situation in a reasonable amount of time, you could find yourself, in a place where a situation has gotten out of hand with regard to the health of your locks. You are in this journey because your locks, your hair is very important to you. You're in this journey because you love the idea of hair abundance. You love the idea of a low maintenance style And while it is low maintenance, you hear me always say low maintenance does not mean no maintenance. You like the low maintenance hairstyle. You like the fact that you're out from under the enslavement of hair tyranny, or the tyranny of hair enslavement. Maybe you just like natural hair. Whatever it is, you likely have experienced hair abundance, the blessings that come with less maintenance. And the way I look at it, depending upon what you were doing with your hair beforehand, you might also be feeling like you're saving money, even in the midst of the inflationary, I don't even know what you want to call it, major epic changes and shifts in the prices for not only the installs, but also to maintain your locks with the retightenings or whatever it is that you may be doing. Yes, the prices have soared. They have continued to soar. And one of the things that I will always say, especially with the times that we're living in today, with the demand being what it is, and sometimes it being more and more difficult to find a quality loctician, is that it's important that you have some idea of how to do your own retightenings, or how to take over the maintenance, your own. If you do interlocking, if you're doing twisting, whatever, it's a good idea to have some background knowledge of how to do this, or to have a plan B. But today's video is really giving you some clues about some of the things that you're going to want to look at or look to if you have locks and you start to experience thinning or breaking or something like that. There are some very common symptoms, or some things that you may begin to see. Now, the kind of thinning I'm talking about primarily is not going to so much be thinning down the length of the lock, although that's something that you can also experience. But typically, when that starts to happen, you can see it, you can define it, and you're sure that that's what's actually going on. You just look and you're like, okay, this lock in here is very thin. I need to, do something to mitigate this. I need to repair this or something or other. That's not what I'm talking about. That's something that usually is easy to conclude. But what can happen when you have a head full of locks and you have been enjoying the journey and you're getting your retightenings, you're doing the things that you think you're supposed to do? A lot of times we can overlook some very basic things that we need to do, that if we are not doing them, they can actually begin to show up in the health of our hair. And the one thing that's most important than anything else is really the inspecting what you expect. The time that it takes to take a look at your hair and to pay attention to what is going on, and then to take measures. So when you get your retightenings, or you get your hair redone, or whatever it is that you're doing, even if you're doing your own hair, going through, inspecting your locks, looking at each of them, just as if they were a child in your classroom, or just as if they were a member of your family, really paying attention to what's going on with your locks at this level. Okay, the scalp, your follicles are the foundation of your hair's health. Your scalp can also show you or give you a reason to think that there's something to be concerned about, in the same way that when you start losing hair, you already know my follicles are in trouble. So when you look at your hair, if your scalp is healthy, for the most part, for most people, you shouldn't have soreness in your scalp. You shouldn't have red spots in your scalp. You should not have lesions. You should not have anything that is so irritating to your scalp that it actually causes soreness or pain, or even in worst case scenarios, lesions or blood. If that's happening, that's something you want to pay very careful attention to. If you notice that in a particular area of your hair, you want to pay attention to what is going on in that area. I will always say a problem in one area of your head can sometimes bleed into other areas of your hair. And this is something that, when you are enjoying your lock journey and things are going well, and you're happy about the state of your hair, you notice a problem in one area, you may not think about it. You may want to take an isolationist approach and deal with what's going on in that particular area of your head. But what I encourage you to do is to pay attention to the propensity for a problem area to begin to spread, or a problem area to point to something deeper that may be going on. So first and foremost, you gotta be looking at your hair and you gotta be paying attention. The second thing I'm going to tell you to take a look, to look for, or to take a look at, is if you see those little white bulbs on the ends of hair, or towards the edges of your hair, or in any area of your hair. When you see those little root bulbs, it's important to know that a lot of that is natural. But when you see a proliferation of them in one particular area, and you know that that particular area could potentially be under stress meaning maybe you pull on it too much, maybe you're not careful enough to monitor the tension, maybe the retightenings are too tight. When you begin to notice that regularly, it's important for you to know that you probably are beyond the scope of normal shedding, and some of the signs that you may see that may represent the growth cycle, and that you could be entering dangerous territory, and that may be a sign that there's something else that you need to take a look at. And that is very important, because it wouldn't be just a few little ones. They will be gathered, and there will be a lot of them proliferating in a particular area of your hair. That's a sign to take a look at something. The second thing that is most definitely a sign that you need to pay a little bit closer attention to what may be going on with your hair is if you notice that your retightenings are often tight, and after a retightening your head is sore, or even that you're not able to move the lock because it's so tight. The rotation was done so close to the scalp that it doesn't just move back and forth. That's the same if you have knots. That's the same anything. If you don't give that hair enough leeway to move, and it needs more with knots than it does typically in terms of the way it feels to me than it does with typical interlocking, mainly for me because the hair is a little heavier and it lays differently. So the hair can be stressed out, as far as I'm concerned, a little bit more with that, even though you don't always deal with the tightness, because with the tightness, it's easier to guard against that by not knotting too close to the, I don't know what's going on with words, by not knotting too close to the scalp. But with a standard interlocking, sometimes by the time you realize you're too close to the scalp, because you can continue to pull that hair through the root bed, or you can continue to use that tool to go in there, and it'll feel like there's a lot of space. Oftentimes, by the time you realize there's not a lot of space left, you're already hurting. Your scalp is already sore. You're having to take maybe something for the pain. So my warning to you, or my suggestion to you, is to note that if you are repeatedly experiencing soreness, pain, or even discomfort, the pulling apart of hairs that sometimes want to blend or want to get tangled up, or sometimes can marry naturally if we're not careful. If you aren't paying attention to that, you can actually end up in a situation where you realize, gosh, the repeated pain over time in the same areas has actually weakened my follicles, and it will definitely it's going to lead to some type of consequence. You cannot continue to experience pain with your hair, or hair that is too tight, and not end up having some sort of a consequence or a warning sign, or something that lets you know, okay, I need to stop and pay attention to what is going on. So notice that, and know that it will most definitely lead to some type of hair loss, hair thinning, or some other type of problem, even if it's that the whole lock in and of itself comes out. That's something you definitely want to pay attention to. The other thing that I want to say is that hair loss can be very subtle. It happens at a level sometimes that if you're looking at your hair every day, you may not really see the shift. If you are starting to notice that your hair is looking different, it looks a little thin in certain areas, or it doesn't seem as strong, or maybe you have an area where you're seeing a lot of fuzzy new growth at the root, which is more than just letting you know. It could be where you are in the hair growth cycle. It's letting you know that your hair thinned profusely in an area and is starting to come back. Whatever it is that you may see that could feel like a warning sign, it will no doubt happen very slowly. Okay, and so sometimes just looking at it with the naked eye can be problematic, which is why it's so important to take pictures and to keep a portfolio. I remembered I needed to get this. This is the Loc Journey, the guided journal, tracker, and planner, chronicles of hair growth and personal evolution. This is everything you need for your journey, okay? It's over 500 pages, but there are plenty of places in here for your install portfolio, the Loc portfolio of keeping tabs on how your hair is progressing, your styles, everything down to tracking married locks and locks that are thinning. It's full with lock tips, reflections, goals, guided journaling, which will allow you to really cement the relationship between the lock journey and what it is that goes on with your hair and your personal sense of identity, whether it has to do with ancestral and historical significance, or if it has to do with the way it impacts your self-concept, your self-esteem, your sense of identity. This is a comprehensive, interactive, okay, and transformational guided journal, tracker, and planner. You can track your reties, your twists, your budgets, your vision board. Everything is in this. I encourage you to get it. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it from the I Am Melanin Magic website, okay? If you get it from the I Am Melanin Magic website, you will also find these Loc reflection cards, okay, which draw your attention to things that you may be experiencing with your Loc journey and the impact that it could be having on you as an individual, or the relationship between what it is you're experiencing with your hair and what may be going on with your inside. So if you take a look at this card here, someone is planting a seed. They're having to nurture it. They're having to give it all of the things that it needs to be healthy. This particular card has a letter in the upper right hand corner. Each of these letters means something specifically based upon the various categories of self-reflection that this journal here actually is drawing your attention to. So this particular card says growth unfolds in divine timing. The affirmation here is I trust the pace of my journey. So trusting the pace of your journey with your hair is just as important as trusting the pace of your life in the way that things are unfolding. As you learn to let live and let live, or to wait for the divine unfolding as it relates to your hair, you will find that you will develop patience in other areas of your life as well. You'll find that there are a lot of things on this journey that you're going to have to just surrender to, open up to, and not resist. So the question here asks you, where am I rushing progress in my hair and in my life? How can I embrace stillness and trust? So these cards come free if you decide you want to purchase this on the website. But as we get back to really needing to pay attention to what is going on with your locks, this is really a big thing, because it's easy to sit down, have someone else to do your hair, to abdicate all, control and interference and participation, and just kind of sit back and let things go. And what I'm telling you to do is to be mindful of that. Okay, so as we get into the next reason that I want to discuss with you, I can't stress enough the importance of making sure that you detangle your own hair, whether it is, even if it's sometimes during a session, okay, where you're noticing that your hair is being pulled, or it seems very tangled and it's creating a problem, and the person that's doing your hair is just kind of pulling it apart and they're going through there very swiftly with the tool. It's important that you understand, before you go in, you need to detangle your hair, even if you're not the one that always washes it. Okay, the closer to your appointment that you do a detangling routine with your hair, the better off you're going to be. For sure, if you're someone that always washes your own locks, and you all will hear me say, and I'll continue to say, I always washed my own locks, and I feel like that is the best thing, because it allows me to gently pull apart, the tangles. It allows me to spray my hair with the I Am Melanin Magic Premium Oil Blend. And this particular oil was actually created to be a detangler or to assist with detangling. And so what you will find is once you spray your hair with this and you let it stay on there for a couple of few minutes, it will make your hair easier to pull apart. But you need to be in charge of the detangling. And you need to do it at least a day or two if possible, ideally before you go in for the appointment, so that your scalp is not sore. And you want to be very gentle. You don't want to just comb through like typically we may do, making sure that we can go down the grid and separate everything. Oftentimes you need to isolate the lock. You need to make sure that there's clearance around it. And you need to take the time that is required to make sure that everything is untangled. So be mindful of that. Taking pictures, as I mentioned, is super important. It's going to be one of the most important things that you are going to need to do because it helps you to document any changes over time that the naked eye can't always catch. The other thing that I really want to share with you is that when the hair is stressed, it begins to thin. And for most of us with these locks, it's going to be at the root, okay, which means that the lock is going to seem thinner closest to the scalp, okay, and then the rest of the lock will continue down, and it may seem fine, but that doesn't always mean that the stress has not been encountered in a particular area of your hair. Now, the areas you want to watch more than anything else, this seems to be an area for most of my clients. This isn't a common area. Your edges are a common area, and so is this area back here. It can vary, but it's important to note that usually where one area of your hair is under stress, and it doesn't mean that the rest of your hair is not under stress. It just means that that's the area that's taking the hardest hit, or that may be the area that over time cumulatively has been impacted most in terms of follicle health. It doesn't deny the fact that the rest of your hair is not suffering. It just says this is the area that is weakest right now. But what it should alarm you of is the fact that your hair is in a weakened state and that there's something that you might need to do. If you are actually losing an entire lock, that's something you want to pay attention to. Something like that, although it can become a commonly accepted occurrence every few retightenings for someone, is not something that it's really not the kind of thing that you need to ignore and not pay attention to. A lock lost is a lock lost, and it's something you need to pay attention to. It lets you know that's an area that I could be experiencing hair loss in the future, or that's an area that needs to be treated a little differently, or maybe that's an area that's been aggravated by too much tension, too frequent a retightening, or my hair seems to just be weakening in that area in a way that the rest of my hair is not experiencing. You got to be on top of that because immediately you got to go in and you got to strengthen that hair. You got to strengthen that hair. There was a lady, one of my loctician friends sent me some beautiful pictures yesterday. I hope to share them on the channel over the next few weeks of a lady who's using the magical hair growth serum, and she was, wow, missing hair all the way from here up, and she's having such great results. But those cases, believe me or not, where massive hair loss begins to happen, those cases accelerate and they get worse and worse because, beautiful ladies, we keep doing the same things over and over and over that's contributing to the hair loss. When you start experiencing thinning, you have to change something in your hair care routine. And you have to understand that whatever it is that you've been doing up to that point has really contributed to it, and that if you continue the same routine, it will continue to worsen, and then maybe several months or a year from now or multiple years from now, you'll be in a much worse place. It's not the kind of thing where you want to jump from the pot into the fire. And what I mean by that is when you find yourself in a situation like that, you have to make very serious decisions about what your options are and what your choices are going to be about how you're going to move forward. You don't want to, in the midst of losing hair, decide that When your hair loss is at its worst, decide that you want to shift over to knots. I don't recommend that at all. In fact, I have quite a bit to say about that, and many of you all are aware of some of that by taking the Righteous Hair class. But there are steps and measures that need to be considered if you plan on holding on to your locks and giving them an opportunity to bounce back. So please understand, just stop. When you start to see massive amounts of thinning or thinning in a particular area where you are very concerned, that there's some very real sacrifices that you may have to consider making that you might not have thought about initially. Things that we never want to do. We never want to, usually we don't just by choice decide we want to trim our locks, or that we want to decrease our retightenings, or that even we want to continue getting our hair retightened at the same rate, but that we don't want to maybe have them tightened less tight, meaning less rotations, things that may not show the grid in the way that we like to see the grid. The point that I'm making here is that you want to be as proactive as you can on the front end before you start to experience problems, but that when you do experience problems and they've already visited your doorstep, that you be prepared to understand that some of what may be an option for you at that point may not be the most comfortable thing, but that if you've gotten that far and you're not really ready to give up at this time, or just forego the lock journey altogether, that there are some things that you may be able to do. I am Tanisha Ali. If you have not purchased my book, Manifesting Your Masterpiece, you can get it on Amazon. If you haven't purchased the Lock Journey, guided journal, tracker, and planner, Lock Chronicles of Hair Growth and Personal Evolution, you can get that as well on the I Am Melanin Magic site. I love you all. I want to thank you for all of your support. Look for me to get back regularly posting. I typically post 2 days a week. And so look for me to be back on that schedule on the regular, and as well with the shorts. I love you all. If you're interested in talking more with me about what is going on with your hair, or what it is that you may be experiencing, or even what maybe some of your options are, you can book a hair appraisal at the I Am Melanin Magic website, the same site where you can purchase multiple products that are natural, that are healthy, that are tried, true, and tested, and that have helped thousands of women regrow their hair. I love you. I love you. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your afternoon, morning, or evening, or whenever it is that you see this video.